Have you ever wondered why elders warn us never to sweep at night? Is it just an old tale? Or is there something lurking in the darkness, waiting for a mistake? Nene never believed in superstitions. At 16, she thought the elder stories were just ways to scare children. But that night, she learned the truth the hard way. It started with a simple mistake. The moon hung high over the quiet Igbo village, casting long shadows over the clay huts. Inside her family's compound, Nene sat on a wooden stool, picking stones from a bowl of rice. Her mother, Mama Nnenna, stirred a pot of soup over the fire. Her wrapper tied tightly around her waist. The hair smelled of spices, but it was heavy with something else, something unseen. Nene, her mother called. You forgot to sweep the front yard today. Do it now before you go to bed. Nene growled. Mama, can't I do it in the morning? Her mother's sharp eyes met hers. I won't repeat myself again. With a sign, Nene grabbed a short broom made of palm fronds and stepped outside. The night air was cold, but something about it felt wrong. The trees rustled, though there was no wind. The village, usually filled with the sound of laughter and distant drums, was too quiet. Even the crickets had stopped singing. Still, she bent down and started sweeping. The dry leaves and dust swirled around her feet. Then, a low whispered. Nene froze. She looked around. The compound was empty. Her father and younger brothers were asleep inside. Her mother was still by the fire. She shook her head and imagining things. She continued sweeping. The broom brushed against the ground in slow, steady strokes. Then, a black handprint appeared in the dust. Nene's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't put her hand there. She dropped the broom. The moment it hit the ground, the whispers returned, louder this time. Nene. The voice was hoarse, like dry leaves, rubbing together. It came from behind her. She turned slowly. At first, there was nothing. Just the dark outline of the compound. The thatched roof of their hut, the clay walls. Then, she saw it. A shadowy figure stood by the gate. Tall, motionless, featureless, except for its eyes. Two glowing hollow pits staring straight at her. Nene opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The figure took a step forward. Her legs refused to move. The broom lay at her feet, untouched. The hair around her grew ice cold. Then the whisper came again, right by her ear. Why did you wake me? Nene's heart pounded like a talking drum. The shadowy figure stood still, watching her. Its hollow eyes burned into her skin, freezing her in a place. She wanted to run. She needed to run, but her body refused to move. Then, the figure took another step forward. The hair turned thick, pressing against her chest. Her throat felt dry, as if she had swallowed hot sand. Why did you wake me? The whisper came again, slithering through the night like a snake. I didn't mean to, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The figure cocked its head, as if listening. Then it raised its hand, a long shadowy limp-like finger stretching unnaturally. Nene finally found her voice. She screamed. Her mother, burst out of the hut. Nene, what is it? The moment her mother appeared, the shadow vanished like smoke blown away by the wind. Nene fell to her knees, shaking. Mama rushed to her, grabbing her shoulders. What is wrong with you? Nene gasped for air, pointing at the gates. Mama, there is something. It spoke to me. It said I woke it up. Mama's face changed. She knew. She grabbed Nene's arm and dragged her inside. Once inside, her mother locked the door and turned to her, eyes wide with fear. Did you sweep the compound? She asked, her voice shaky. Nene nodded slowly. Mama slapped her thigh. I told you, we don't sweep at night. But Mama, why? Nene cried. What did I see? Mama didn't answer. Instead, she rushed to the fire, grabbed a small clay pot, and began muttering words Nene had never heard before. She sprinkled something on the floor, white powder mixed with herbs. The room filled with a strange scent. Mama's arm trembled as she set the pot down. Then she turned to Nene. You have invited them. Nene's stomach twisted. Invited who? Mama stared at her, eyes dark and fearful, the spirits of the night. At the moment, a loud knock shook the door. 3 knocks, slowly, heavy, not human. Nene's blood turned to ice. Then the door cracked open by itself. The door cracked open, but there was no wind. Nene clutched Mama's wrapper, her body trembling. The fire in the clay pot flickered widely, casting strange shadows on the wall. Mama's breathing was shaky, but she did not move. The door opened wider. A cold voice whispered from the darkness outside. You called me. Nene let out a strangled gasp. She could not see anyone, but the voice, it was everywhere. Mama grabbed Nene's arm and pulled her to the floor. Do not speak, she whispered. Do not answer. Nene nodded quickly, pressing her lips together. The fire flickered. The shadow in the room stretched unnaturally. The footstep, slow, heavy, moving inside, but there was no one there. Nene's heartbeat pounded in her ears. She squeezed her eyes shut, praying, begging the spirit to leave. Mama reached out for the clay pot and dipped her finger inside. She grabbed a handful of white powder and threw it towards the door. Silence. Then a loud, bloody, chilling scream tore through the night. The door slammed shut on its own. The fire in the pot blazed higher, then suddenly went out. Everything went still. The air felt lighter. The strange, suffocating presence was gone. Mama let out a shaky breath, holding Nene close. It is over, she whispered. Nene blinked, her throat dry. What were they? Mama's face was pale with fear. She ran a hand over Nene's head and sighed. The spirit of the night, she said. They walk in darkness. They do not like to be disturbed. Tears welled in Nene's eyes. But Mama, I didn't know. Mama cupped her face gently. That is why we do not sweep at night. It is not just a story, it is a warning. Nene swallowed hard, the event of the night still flashing in her mind. She had learned her lesson. From that night on, she never swept after sunset again. Some traditions are not just superstition. They carried hidden truths. Would you dare to sweep at night? Like, subscribe for more thrilling African folk tales. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in Nene's place? See you in my next story. Bye-bye.